Week 9, MLR news and notes. The Raptors claim first place. They will be the first place team going into the playoffs. Seattle Seawolves fall to second completely with Raptors 1 to play and the Seawolves done for the season until the 30th of June for the playoff championship series. So that happened. The Eagles beat Scotland. Why is that MLR relevant? Because a bunch of MLR players are in the squad, so we're going to talk about that today. But first, let's talk about some games that happened in Major League Rugby, all right? Looking at the scores, first matchup was NOLA at Utah, which was during the day, and that was Utah hosting, New Orleans losing 43-46. What happened here early on, Dom Patty just sliced and diced through the New Orleans backline. He, found the gap, and the forwards were on the wrong line, so they couldn't catch him there. And then the backline they just let him through. So Utah went up early, 10-0, and then it was 12-0. But that point, you had some settling down. Matt Houston scored a try. JP Eloff, just perfect from the tee. I think he only missed one kick. In the first half, Utah started committing a lot of penalties, even though they keep crushing it on the points. They scored 43 points. That was over the course of the game. But at the end of the day, their kicking wasn't as good. But Johnny Linehan, got to talk about him. He's improved a lot. Feitu Vainicolo, he's back after being sort of absent in a game on the wing. He was heard from this time on the wing. Tanata Lauti killed it from the center position. And then, not Tanata Lauti. He killed it from the open side wing position, but AG2 anyhow killed it from the center position. John Wayne Cullen, his work rate is something different for this team since coming back from his ACL injury. Wasn't sure he was going to be back, but he was back, and he's been kicking it. Some things for him to work on is he is penalty prone. He does commit a lot of penalties, but that comes with trying to jackal a ball and having a high work rate as a 6. It was just interesting to see how this game just went back and forth. Offense on offense, strength against strength, the multiple offense for New Orleans found the right gaps going from right to left to be able to give them the chance at victory here. The biggest thing for New Orleans was JP Eloff just taking a chance in the first half with a drop goal, and that proved significant for this team. Moving on, Glendale at Seattle. Seattle at Glendale. Glendale wins 33-11. They claim the top spot in the playoffs with this result. With 1 to play, Seattle is done. They have a bye week before the playoffs. It went – I think Phil Mack was having a really good game overall. It went pretty fast. They went up, 11-0. They weren't able to convert their only conversion. Will Holder had a bad night on the tee, missed the first conversion. Then he made those 2 penalty kicks, and you were thinking, man, this is going to go pretty fast. All of a sudden, intercepts and Chad London just being amazing. It's different. The first try ends up coming off of Maximo Deacheval for the Raptors, who continues to show you something different at the fly half position. Which, it's going to be kind of crazy to see how this team works when Will McGee comes back from the Eagles camp, because you're going to have 2 kickers that will just give them a chance to play a crazy attacking style of rugby, with Will taking up the fly half reins and Maximo going back to the 15 spot. It's going to be dangerous to watch, because they're going to get Ben Landry back. They're going to get Dylan Fawcett back. John Quill, pretty sure he'll be fit for the championship series. But for the most part, I think the scrummaging battle really shifted when Luke White came on pretty early towards the end of the first half. The scrummaging got a lot better. The attacking platform stabilized for Seattle. But really the defense just clamped down in their zones, and in about the middle, I would say middle 20 minutes of the game, closing out the second quarter and the beginning of the third quarter was just where Glendale went to work and made their money and just crushed and stole his soul out of Seattle. Chad London intercept. Mika Cruz just cutting through that defense. A lot of defensive lapses here. Tim Metcher for Seattle continues to just be a stud at 3, but he had to go up against Luke White in the second half, and then Kalepi Fafita, Kellen Gordon. Sorry, man. You're not gonna win that one. And then the final match on the weekend, San Diego versus Austin. I talked about this on the Earful of Dirt podcast. I really think the officiating in this game was really poor, and mostly because, the ref was allowing back chat when he made decisions and didn't, stomp that out. And that's really the big one for me. You saw a tremendous, I would say small Pyrrhic victory was Austin Scrum pretty much holding out the whole match, but it really did nothing for them. And it reminded me of the preseason game that they had against the Legion, where they lost like 41-22, I think it was. And, it was all about, they didn't win that portion of the set piece, but they were able to find the gaps. And with tag leader, they put the ball deep and they made Austin miss. They put they just won the aerial battle. This time, Timothy Guillemon was way off. Like, he didn't make some penalty kicks that he needed to make in the first half, which really put them down. In the second half, Ross Deacon, surging, Mason Pedersen played a really good game overall. You had some of these guys just, pulling themselves back in, but really couldn't do much there. And it was really difficult. And then there was a lot of silly penalties that Austin committed that really didn't help them in this game, which also gave tag leader the ability to, put it through the uprights to push his team over the top. Good to see San Diego do what they needed to do and rebound, and they will host the number 1 team in the league, the Glendale Raptors. People have asked, will the Glendale Raptors rest any of their players? And I'm like, yeah, they're resting their players. They're all in Eagles camp. So I don't think San Diego is going to get any leniency here. I think they're going to have to earn it, and I don't think they've got it. Finally, the last match on the weekend, which took place at the same time as Glendale versus Seattle, where I was at, Houston, with the United States defeating Scotland 30-29. We won our set piece battles. And here's something to look at in the statistics. We were playing a tier 1, so guess what? That means we have high-level statistics. From the tee, AJ McGinty was 100%. He had 3 conversions, 3 penalty goals. From the tee, Scotland was not. They were at 60%. They had 2 conversions and 1 penalty goal total. And then if you go kick, pass, run, for meters gained, we had 44 less meters gained on the ground. We played a different style of rugby than we had been playing, I would say, back during the ARC, just because the game plans are set a lot better because this team has been together so much longer and they've been receiving information over a 6-month period from this coaching staff. Will Hooley and AJ McGinty, their kicks were just crazy. We had 25 kicks from hands, which led the game because Scotland only had 20. We had a lot less passes in this game, and part of that came in the second half when we just looked to seek contact against Scotland to drive up their tackle count and increase fatigue. In the first half, we really did not have a chance in the possession battle. We had possession for about 45% in the first half. And then we, got back up to 50-50 in the second half. But if you look at the territory, we had even less territory in the second half. But, it's about the clean breaks that you got. We had 8 clean breaks versus their 9. And, we didn't beat nearly as many defenders. But you look at some of the things we did. Our set pieces, really high percentage. 5 of 5 of mauls were won. 78 80 rucks won. We conceded way less turnovers. We conceded 10. They conceded 16. And then if you look at the other portion of set pieces, we're 5 of 6 for scrums. They were 5 of 6, so we stole 1. They stole 1. We won all our lineouts. They lost 1, which was gathered up by Paul Mullen, and that was a significant piece of the game. Our tackle rate was the same. Early on in the first half, we were tackling like furiously. 83% for both, but if you look at this, we have significantly more tackles made. It's 122 to 95. They only attempted 115, and we attempted 147. And so if you had looked at these stats, you would have said, hey, they're pretty close. We conceded. We took 1 yellow card, Samu Manoa, what is relatively a controversial call because he had someone in backup, but a penalty try was awarded near the posts for a high tackle on George Horn. We conceded more penalties than the Scots by 3. 11 to 8. So for overall, if you're saying we're playing against a tier 1 nation and you give me this stats and you told me we lost, and I would have said it was close by 5. But this was a really good game. We did what we needed to do. We took the gaps. Congratulations to AJ McGinty for just crushing it with his boot and, chasing it down as Matt Fagerson fumbled that ball. He collected it and looked right, was about to get tackled, looked left, Hanko Hammerscheis was over his shoulder, tossed over on the offload, which for some reason doesn't get credited here, and boom, we got a try. We were up 30 to 24. We end up conceding a try in the corner. I talked to AJ yesterday, and he was very, I guess perhaps annoyed the fact that he let the guy in because he meant to tackle him out of bounds. The try was made in extra time. So the only way for Scotland to win this was to, make that conversion. And because AJ got the tackle deep on the right corner of the try zone, it really set up a bad kick for Blair Kinghorn. And then welcome to America. We got loud. We supported our Eagles. All those fans. Personally, I was quiet. I was clenching my teeth, hoping against hope after I felt like I jinxed the team, when we let that try in. And you know what? They missed. Wayne Barnes blows the whistle, and we have beaten our first Tier 1 nation. This week, we've got 2 matches. San Diego hosts Glendale, and then the SaberCats travel to Utah. It's going to be a great ending week of Major League Rugby, going into the MLR Championship Series the next week. There's also USA versus Canada, which if I were a betting man, I'd take USA on the points by far. So that's it for this week's Major League Rugby news and notes, Week 9. See us next week. I'm Aaron Castro for The Hook. Later.